In this very short, or maybe not that very short video, I would like to talk about web bundlers, and more specifically, why do we need web bundlers? I have a very small diagram, which couldn't be simpler, that explains at a very high level what a web bundler does. A web bundler is a program that will take in some files and it will do some processing, some magic, and then it will output some resulting files which are called assets. Assets are what is consumed by the browser. Of course, in this context, I'm talking about web bundlers because bundlers can also bundle for other environments such as Node. Now, why do we need web bundlers? If you were to imagine a world without bundlers, and a world where there are so many high demands in terms of functionalities on the web, complex features, rich designs, and so on. If you don't have a web bundler, then you would have first of all to do a lot of manual work in order to ensure that your app is usable on the web. So the bundler, what it does, it will ensure that you can build your application in whichever framework you want, in whichever language that compiles to JavaScript, and with so many other features that are not supported in the browser. And the bundler, what will do? It will ensure that your application is usable for the browser environment. So the first reason in this case it will be usability on the web, because as I said, you can write your application in, let's say, TypeScript with React and maybe Next.js or something else, and then the bundler will take in your files, it will analyze the dependencies, it will build a module graph, a chunk graph, it will run operations on those graphs, it will perform other optimizations, and so on. And then it will package everything together, converting everything in JavaScript so that your application is usable on the web. This is one very important point. Then, besides that, imagine that your application is very complex, and let's say that it will total the total number of files is huge, and as a result, the overall size of the app is also huge. Let's suppose it will be 100 megabytes. Try to imagine opening a web page and having the browser to fetch 100 megabytes over the network and then parse it and then have the browser parse it and execute it. It will most likely turn into a painful user experience, especially on low-end device or on low-end devices. And so one very important feature that web bundlers allow for is code splitting, or in other words, or in a different way called lazy loading. So it enables code splitting. And here, just to give you a hint, there is the import function that is very commonly used, and although this syntax is natively supported by the browser nowadays in the context of ES modules, Webpack or any other bundler, most likely, the bundler will know how to interpret this function, and it will essentially partition the entire application into smaller chunks or in other chunks. For instance, if you are on your home route on your application, you wouldn't want to load code from the dashboard or from the settings or from the user table and so on. And so you could, for instance, have a chunk for each route so that you don't load everything at once, which is of course not beneficial to the overall performance and the user experience. Then, what else does a bundler have? The bundler will also perform, besides ensuring that the app is usable and besides allowing for you to specify what needs to load now and what needs to load later, the bundler will also do some sorts of optimizations on your code. So I'm going to simply put optimizations, but this is a very huge topic, and I would say that most of my work in the past months have been around this area on optimizations. Because the bundler can optimize in many ways. It can use other plugins that will minify code, that will remove unused code, unused code. This is also called tree shaking. Then I think, and there are other bundler specific terms that refer to optimizations, which aren't actually useful mentioning here, but just so you know, the bundler does also optimizations. Then it can also speed up your build time because maybe your application has multiple purposes, and but I would actually not mention this because I'm trying not to get very specific into what bundlers do, but I simply want to give you just a basic understanding on the purpose of the bundlers. So I think I should probably stop now with a final idea. I'm thinking on the top of from the top of my mind if there is something else I should mention, but I don't think so. I would just close with some final definition of a bundler. So in the beginning I said that a bundler is a program that takes in some files and outputs some other files. But in essence, a bundler it can be thought of as an orchestrator of tasks that will essentially build these assets. So a bundler will be given an entry point to your app or many other entry points. The bundler will parse the code, will use, for instance, a third-party library to return, to transform the raw strings of the files in ASTs. Then the bundler will build a module graph. Then from the module graph, it will build a chunk graph. Then based on these two graphs, the bundler will run plugins. So the bundler is also very customizable. And in these plugins, you can optimize, you can perform custom logic, and so on. And then near the end, the bundler will also be responsible for optimizing your code, as I said, and it will in the end be responsible for generating the code that will be used for by your browser, or by the browser. Yeah, so I think this will be it. This has been a bit of a spontaneous video because I haven't actually prepared anything before. I've been so immersed in this topic that now it feels very difficult to step back and talk very simply about this. But I think this could be a nice beginning for me to talk a bit more about bundlers, because it's something that I've been taking a lot of notes on, and I feel like I have many things to share about it. So this will be one first video. These are the main things that or the main features of a bundler that I can think of right now. It makes essentially your app usable and available on the web. It will allow you to perform code splitting so that you can improve your app. It also has some built-in optimizations, and I will also add, as a last point, it is very customizable. I think it requires a different letter here. Yeah. Meaning that, and this is achieved through plugins. Basically, with plugins, you can hook into different parts of the bundling process, and you can insert your logic and so on. So it is, in essence, the bundler job is very simple, but it has to do, but the way it achieves its simplicity is through a lot of code, or through a lot of logic and a lot of concepts that are intertwined together. So although its job, its output, its task is very simple, the inner workings are very complex. But I would say that this makes this entire, let's say, domain or topic of web bundlers very, very interesting, because there is a lot to learn about the web from this. Okay, I think this video hasn't been actually very short as I initially thought, but I will end it here now, and I will most likely make more videos about web bundlers, because yeah, I feel like I have a lot to share, and there isn't a wise idea to keep everything in my notes, I would say. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.